If you would, please rise. I'm going to call on Commissioner Marshall for the pledge as well as the invocation.
Oh, Lord, thank you for this day that you blessed us with, a day that we never seen. Bless and thank for those who came and those who wanted to come but could not make it. And dear Lord, we pray for our staff as they carry out discharge of their duties from day to day. Thank you for their guidance and us commissioners making our best decisions for this county. And dear Lord, I'd like to thank you and for all the blessings that you bless us and continue to bless us with. Dear Lord, we ask that you give wisdom to our president as he carry out the discharge of his duties, and the activities that he do is in your name and for your will, not our will. And more importantly, Lord, I ask for a special blessing for all of the federal workers who have lost their jobs and those who are going to lose their job in the effort for efficient government. And dear Lord, I also ask that you continue to bless our nation as we continue to do what is right, even amongst those who are immigrants, that you give them traveling grace to their countries in which they return. For we understand, Lord, that it is possible to entertain angels unaware. We understand that in your word it says that even none of the weak of us have a home. And dear Lord, 2 or 3 are gathered in your name. We understand that you're in the midst. All these blessings we ask in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Marshall. Commissioners, inside your packet, you'll find your minutes of the work session of January the 27th, as well as your regular session minutes of January the 28th. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Ms. Lovren, the minutes are approved. Our first public hearing item is Agenda Item 5A, and this is REZ 2025-01, the Hurtado property on Bethany Drive. It involves 6.4 acres. It is currently RA, and the request is for R1, and it will have county water and septic. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. Before you is a request by Mr. Hurtado for her 6.4 acres on Bethany Drive to go from RA to R1 in order to develop conforming lots for individual residents. You'll note here the property does have access on Bethany Drive and Valdell. The future land use depicts it as a rural residential area, which does recommend R1 zoning. And there are no wetlands on the property per speak, except for the existing pond there. You'll notice that the property 6.4 acres here, some of the adjoining property lines and lot sizes. When the TRC analyzed the request, they looked at these neighboring land uses, lot sizes, the availability of county water on the eastern side of Valdell Road, the viability of septic systems, and the unique shape of this property, and recommended approval of R1 as depicted. During the Planning Commission meeting, the applicant did speak in favor, and a few citizens spoke in opposition, expressing concerns over stormwater and drainage, added traffic, the current sale of 2.5-acre lots on the western portion of Bethany Road near Bethany Drive, which you'll note here, and ultimately, the Planning Commission questioned the timeline of the Valdell Road improvements, did verify the availability of county water and the minimum lot sizes for septic systems, before ultimately recommending denial of the request 8-1.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Dillard? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. And is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Rodney Smith. My address is 4759 Ben Salem Way. I grew up in Cook County, but I've been a resident of Lowndes County since, I've been working in Lowndes County since 2003, and I've been a resident here since 2017 when we purchased our house in Bethany Hills. Since that time, there have been hundreds of homes added on Valdale Road. There's been Landings, Lou Lane, Betty Place. There's an area on the north end of Valdale that's under development now. You got phase 2 of Grove Point that is starting to be underway. It has been clear cut. There's a lot of activity going on there. The amount of traffic on Valdale Road right now has grown dramatically. We chose this area of Lowndes County because we are out in the county. We're not in the city. We're away from everybody. We chose it because of the school district. We were zoned for hay-hire. That has now been changed because of all these additional houses. One of the things brought up at a previous rezoning meeting was the strain brought forth upon the schools, at which time the response by members of the commission was, school's problem, it's not ours. Well, now it's changed our school zone to Pine Grove, which is even further from our residents than hay-hire. I'm respectfully asking you, do not add even more houses in this area. And this is in my backyard almost. There's enough traffic through there. It's just, the north end of Lowndes County is exploding. With that comes more crime, as that has already begun to increase, and it's not as safe as it once was. If this area continues to grow, it's not going to be any different than the city of Valdosta and the amount of crime and everything else they have taken place. So I just ask that you please do not approve this rezone. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Williams, address 4775 Bethany Drive, direct across, excuse me, in front of the property. This is my wife, Deborah Williams. And we are in opposition of it because, first of all, I can give you plenty of reasons, but the first reason is the infrastructure over there is not gonna be that good. Now, we was under the impression at the last meeting, they was talking about putting septics in there. Now, today we hear there is sewage over there. We know there is water over there. But then, on the meeting yesterday, we was talking about trying to save taxpayers' money. I don't see where it's gonna be realistic for the county to run that water, because they got to run it on Bethany Drive, because you can't run it any other way. And you just go up under Valdale Road, you go come up Bethany Drive, 1/8 of a mile, just to accommodate this project. And it doesn't seem fair what you're talking about, you're trying to save the taxpayers' money. And then the stormwater runoff. We already having problems. Y'all have seen me down here before. The stormwater runoff is on the east side of our property with the 248-inch covenants. Now you're coming, the west side, now you're coming to the east side with 224-inch covenants. That water got to come off of that property and come down, and it's gonna go under Valdale Road through 224-inch covenants. It's gonna go through the neighbor property, which the county does not have an easement to. It's gonna go back there in the back, and it's gonna gather up with the water that we're already having problems with. So the infrastructure is not ready for that. Now, we're not against improvements, but we ask that y'all leave it RA instead of R1 low density. Because we were thinking there were gonna be 2 houses. Then we heard there could be as many as 12 houses over there. And that place cannot handle it. I'm wondering if the land been perked. Because when we built, we had to have the land perked. And that's wet. I went over there and pulled the neighbor out with my tractor because they bogged down trying to mow that land. So when they build it up, that water still go drain somewhere. It's gonna come from the north side of Valdale Road to the south side. And I don't think it's fair. We've been there almost 40 years. And like I say, we're not against improvements, but we are against putting a subdivision directly across in front of us. Because the traffic is already something else. Some morning we get out, we got to come to town to go to the doctor. We have stopped at the Azalea Commons trying to get to North Alosha Road. You finna build your yard in the process, I understand. About 600 apartments right there on Valdale Road. We just congregating in our neighborhood, and it's not fair. We are taxpayers, we have been faithful, we've been good taxpayers, good citizens, and I almost beg you not to rezone that property. If they want to build those two houses, which we were promised that what it would be, that's fine. That's fine with us. But 6, anywhere from 2 to 12 houses, that's not fair. That's not fair to us. And the developer, once he do what he gonna do, he gonna leave it. Then it's gonna be stuck with the county to straighten it out, just like y'all had to do up on Nelson Hill. That developer went down there and did that work, and then he left it. I seen county equipment in there for years trying to straighten out what he done, because I took pictures of it. And that's not fair to us as taxpayers. You know. Go ahead.
No, I want you to do it. Ask for the now.
Okay. She's saying I need to just go ahead and ask for the denial. But I've already asked for that.
Yes, sir.
You know, because I just think that, you know, and I appreciate y'all considering it, and you know.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
A little short. Lindsay Hurtado, 15514 Highway 122, Barney, Georgia. Good afternoon, committee. My name is Lindsay Hurtado. I am the builder and owner of La Catalina Properties. First off, thank you for taking the time to hear my request. We're requesting R1 zoning to build stick-built homes, 25 to 2750 square feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, but an acre or so per property. These homes would be similar in size and style as Creekside West or Union Springs. We're not planning on building anything small. It's going to be very comparable to what is existing in the area. As you know, there's some very big and beautiful homes out there. Initially, when we purchased this land, we thought that we could do a well and septic. We're unable to do that. As you know, the county has put a ton of money into the infrastructure of utilities, and within reason. We have to bore, at our cost, bore into the utilities. And in order for us to make that work, we need the lot count. Right now, we can do 2 houses, or zoning could, with our current zoning, we can do 2 houses, or somebody could potentially come in and put five mobile homes if they wanted to. We could also request R21 zoning, which would allow for higher density. But it's not aligned with what we have in the area. We want to build bigger homes, something beautiful. There's a huge market niche or shortage of that type of home, acreage and style. There's currently nothing being built. And we're not asking for R21 higher density. We just want to do up to, 5 lots. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? All right, I'll offer the opportunity for a rebuttal for anyone that would like to add anything that they may have, that may have already been said. Opportunity for rebuttal. All right, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
There's a lot I want to ask, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind.
Will you have the floor, sir?
First, I want to clarify with Mr. Dillard that what Mrs. Hurtado said, by right, she can currently place 5 mobile homes on this property.
Yes, sir. In RA zoning, under family ties provisions, it does allow for additional homes for family members. RA zoning also allows for single-wide mobile homes to be placed on the property.
And staff's recommending on this case, what's your recommendation again?
Staff is recommending for R1, anytime a developer is looking to add density, we try to do this through the appropriate measures, and R1 is the most appropriate measure for single, low-density residential in this area.
So if she did 4 lots, and I should have asked why she was here, but I know there's been talk about 4 or 5 lots was what I've heard verbally. But the 4 lots puts us at 1.5-ish, 5.3 acres per lot.
More or less, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, all right, I wanted to clarify that. I'd also like to go back to some of the things that Mr. Williams said and clarify with staff on some of what he said, starting with, I was unaware that we were building 600 apartments anywhere near here. Do we have the count of the number of apartments? Because I do think it's pertinent. And I want to make sure that when anybody speaks in a public meeting, that we're speaking facts, and we've done the research, and that we state facts. So how many apartments, do we know that? Chad, do you know that number?
Are you referring to the ones behind
I'm
Camelot
assuming-
Crossing?
I'm assuming those are the only ones that I'm aware of that are under construction.
That's the only ones I'm aware of, yes, sir.
Okay.
I do not know the exact number.
Commissioner Ornstein, that is 280 units.
Okay, 280 units. County running water to Ms. Hurtado's property. No one has proposed that the taxpayers will pay to serve and to install an additional water line to her property, right?
No, sir. County utility of water was run from Lucas Richardson north to the intersection of McMillan and Bethany Road. Any development off of that water line is at the expense of the developer.
Okay. There was a mention of a perk test because of the land being wet, and I want to remind the folks in the audience that we're here for a land use case. This is rezoning. There is a whole lot of additional work that has to go after we make a ruling on a case like this. So just because we rule that the land may be suitable based on our Unified Land Development Code or any other rules and regulations that we try to conform to, there's still a whole lot of engineering that has to go into these developments. They may or may not work out. So am I correct in saying that a perk test will have to be completed if she's got county water there and she has to put in septic tanks? Then the health department will get involved and they will do the perk test and approve whether or not she can put a septic tank on any of these 4 or 5 lots.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. The final question I have is, I am concerned about drainage running towards south across Bethany Road. Has engineering looked at, I know we've looked at this situation and we've tried to help Mr. Williams with his flooding problem, but I took the time today to pull a map and to log the wetland areas, and I've shared that with my fellow commissioners. I don't see, based on the contours, and I'm not an expert, I don't claim to be a civil engineer, but the property that continues to flood on Mr. Williams' property, the area, is actually shown as a floodplain. There's buildings that evidently have been constructed without permits that are in the floodplain. I just want to make sure that we don't contribute to that. I mean, I feel like that we're trying to help with the beaver dams and that sort of thing, but I don't want to see water shed across Bethany Drive and further complicate Mr. Williams' issues.
Yes, sir. Based on our investigation and observations, we believe that The water will drain on that existing property more towards Valdale Road. There's an existing cross drain that is further towards Valdale that it will go to. And of course, this, the owner of the property has a right as far as making sure the water goes where it's supposed to go. And that's where engineering would get involved when they get to that point, based on those existing easements and ditches, and making sure all wetlands have the environmental impact studies done.
Okay. Thank you for entertaining me and
Oh, absolutely.
allowing me to,
Any other questions?
I had a question, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Mr.
Just
Marshall.
the staff, I noticed it says 2.5 acre lots that are, that's being advertised, but long story short, can 12, I guess, homes be put on the R1?
On its
Based
current
on,
proposal, R1 zoning does allow for accessory dwelling units. So in theory, yes, they would be limited by lot size. Overall, 1 acre typically allows up to 1,500 square feet of an accessory building or an accessory dwelling. So in theory, yes, 12 houses could be built. But again, those accessory dwellings are for family members.
okay.
can we clarify with the applicant that she doesn't intend to put?
Sure. Well, I think she gave us a number initially. Mr. Hurtado, would you come back up just a minute, please? Okay, well, we've closed the public hearing, but we do have a question for you from
Okay.
one of the commissioners, so.
So that question is, in addition to the primary residence, do you have any intention on building accessory structures to house people?
No, I
Would-
am not.
So mother-in-law suites, none of that will be constructed?
No, sir.
Okay, and you have no intentions on putting mobile homes on any of these lots?
Absolutely not.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
And we can, if it helps.
that's okay. If
Okay.
you answered this question, then that's all. Thank you, ma'am.
So is that something like a condition?
All right, any other questions?
I would set it as a condition for no more than 5 lots or something.
Mr. Chairman, he was asking about the status of a condition being no more than 5 lots. I guess that's what he was asking. Is that a condition? 5 residents?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll put that in the form of a motion if you're ready.
and that motion is what?
That motion is to approve following staff's recommendation and getting the answers to the questions, but no more than 5 lots and, or 5 residences on 5 lots.
Okay. So the motion is to approve the request with the conditions of 5 residences on the property.
Correct.
Would that be,
Yeah, second.
that's what, all right, so we have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Please raise your hand. All in favor signify by aye. Raise your hand. Okay, it's, those opposed, 1, so we're 3-1. The motion carries. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item 5B, and this is REZ 2025-02. This is Hamilton Green Phase 2, 4618 Bemis Road. This involves 1.12 acres. It is currently CG, and the request is for a PD, and it has county utilities. Mr. Dillard.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you. This is 1.2 acres of commercial general zoning in addition to the 5 acres highlighted here as PD zoning from 2022 that was previously approved. As you noted, the area is within the Neighborhood Activity Center and Urban Service Area, also within the Bemis Corridor Overlay. Again, there are no wetlands or water to speak of on this property. This was the 2022 site plan that was approved for the original townhomes there, noting 80 townhomes. The applicant is proposing in the upper right-hand corner, the 1.12 acres there, to be added to this site plan for 12 more townhomes, while also adding additional amenities to the property, including pools, gazebos, grilling areas, et cetera. With that being said, the TRC did analyze the request according to the ULDC, found it consistent and recommended approval. And at the Planning Commission, no one spoke in opposition, while the applicant's engineer spoke in favor and available to answer any questions, and therefore they voted 9-0 to recommend approval.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Dillard? All right, hearing none, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? All right, hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Matthew Inman, Advanced Engineering, 4560 Val North Drive, Suite E. I'm the engineer for the project. As JD mentioned, this was previously 1.12 acres of commercial property. They've had limited interest as commercial property. They're roughly halfway through the residential units they are constructing, and have had great interest in that, so want to add to that. The 1.12 acres, want to add 12 units in that space, 9 additional parking spaces, and they're going to add a pool, clubhouse, gazebo, grilling area, that kind of stuff in the original section, kind of in the center of the complex. So want to basically just convert the commercial to residential area and add some amenities for the development is the basic plan for what we're asking to do.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
You know, every time I've questioned an engineer, I've been embarrassed, but you said 12 new units, but 9 parking spaces. Is there?
9 additional. There's nine secondary parking spaces that aren't tied to the units. There's 3 in each unit, so there's 36 parking spots. There's 2 in the driveway and 1 in the garage, but we have 9
So like
supplementary additional.
like visitor spots?
Yeah, not visitor spots for,
Okay.
you know, at Easter, Halloween, Christmas, there's never enough parking spots. There's 9 other ones outside of just ones at the units themselves.
Okay. Good.
All right.
I think we require 2 per spot by code, and we have 3, so we're over as it is.
Okay, good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Inman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this request? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. Please raise your right hand. All in favor? It's unanimous. Yeah, okay. Let's try to see, can we go ahead and get this other one done right quick? Okay. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item 5C, and this is the REZ 2025-03, Thomas Linfield, 4888 Breakthrough Road. This involves 16.3 acres. It's currently R1, and the request is for EA, and it has well and septic. Mr. Dillard.
Yes, sir. The request here is, by the Linvilles, is to combine the 16.3 acres into a conforming property and remove the R1 zoning, which you see here. Again, this is an agricultural character area which doesn't even recommend R1 zoning. However, it does strongly recommend EA zoning. There are no wetlands on this property to speak of. And you'll note from the historical zoning maps that this R1 portion might almost be inaccurately depicted. However, the applicant is proposing to change the portion that is affecting their property, as you can see here, to EA to make it a conforming property for use agriculturally. The TRC found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, noting the lack of availability of county utilities, the viability of the well and septic systems, and the neighboring land uses, and recommended approval. At the Planning Commission, some of the neighbors spoke not necessarily in opposition, but out of concern for potential uses of the property and the effect it might have on Breakthrough Road. Ultimately, though, they recommended approval 9-0.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Dillard? All right, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hey, Commissioners, how are y'all? My name's Thomas Linville. I live on 414 4H Club Road. Me and my wife bought the property for ag, and we was building a 5,000 square foot building out there. We've got a tractor out there. We've got a mini excavator. We also got an RV. We do some traveling in. We just want to keep our RV out there. We ride hard, you know, just because we live on the lake and we've got no room to store nothing, so we got everything in storage. And we was wanting to build a building out there so we could store our stuff. And then on all the pine trees, we sell all of the pine trees and take care of the pine trees and all on the farm side of the property out there. I think there was a question about, we own a fire protection business in town, Lake Park, and someone said something about some chemicals, but there's no chemicals on our fire protection stuff. We work off a computer and print drawings. I do bid jobs all the time. Like this building sprinkled, if that sprinkler head goes off, it's just water. We deal with no chemicals whatsoever, just water only. There'll be nothing stored out there than our personal stuff, an RV, motorcycles, a boat, stuff like that.
Good. Any questions?
So none of your fire equipment, any of that stuff from the office will be stored?
Yeah, we don't have any fire equipment from that. All we got is laptop and the printers that me and my wife work off from. And even when we travel in our RV, we take it because we got Starlink, so we take our computers and all that. I mean, if we go out to the property and spend 3 or 4 nights out there, yeah, we'll have a computer out there with us in case someone called and they need to email drawings or.
Well, I think the concern from the planning commission meeting was that there would be chemicals stored on site
No,
and
sir.
that
No,
there was
sir.
talk about groundwater getting affected
No,
and
sir.
all kind of stuff.
They zero chemicals will be stored. It's just RV, Polaris, Harleys, you know, a boat, stuff like that. There'd be no kind of big lights. Somebody asked me, one of the neighbors asked if, you know, we was gonna put some big lights out there. There'd be no kind of lights. You know, we cut a road from Johnson Road over on the paved road. We don't even come down the backside, and we had the whole, everything fenced in. You know, we paid a fencing company, fenced in all of the property all the way around. We cut a road from Johnson Road back to the back. And the reason the building was going back on the R1 part, because the rest of it was zoned ag or whatever, because there used to be a mobile home back there, so it already had water, power, stuff like that. So there's already a well there to get some water to the building and already power to power it and all that. That's the reason we just chose
Okay.
that little bit of property.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right, if there's no one else that would like to speak in favor of this request, then I will, we'll leave the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. It's unanimous. Motion carries. All right, at this time, it is time for our, as advertised, public hearing on House Bill 581. Commissioners, could I get a motion to adjourn the regular session and then move into the public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposition? Hearing none, then we are adjourned from our regular meeting momentarily, and we will move into the public hearing portion of the public hearing on House Bill 581. So, Ms. Dukes, I'll turn it over to you and Ms. Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To get us started, we have a couple of comments that outline some of the questions that you and staff have received. So we'll go through this list, and then Ms. Black has a PowerPoint presentation. So to start out, to be clear, Lowndes County is not considering eliminating the current homestead exemption. The statute itself that was passed by the voters recognized the need for some local governments based on their local makeup and revenue structure that they may need the opportunity to opt out of the statute. The General Assembly has recognized some challenges in the bill by introducing new legislation this session that addresses opting in and out and the parcel size being limited, among other things. To stay in, based on the way the statute is currently written for Lowndes County, could challenge the uniformity part of the statute by locking in a digest related to homestead values that is not currently accurate. Significant erosion of home rule by placing the pivot point of millage considerations in the hands of an unelected state commissioner are all issues that have been recognized. Some of these are comments that citizens have questioned. Some of these have been discussion points with you all. Lowndes County is certainly sensitive to the impact that taxes have on our citizens. Currently, Lowndes County, to that point, from a conservative nature, is operating at 2018 general fund expenditure levels, even with the significant inflation that we've experienced over the past year. So Stephanie has a slide that reflects our rollback. So that rollback reflects those operating levels. For Lowndes, it could cause a considerable shift that would result in a millage increase to all other parcels that are not under a homestead exemption. Lowndes County has significantly rolled the county millage rate back over the last few years. That doesn't have a meaningful impact on a tax bill when not all local governments and not all school systems roll back. So again, whenever you see our millage roll back, that's not going to equate to the same dollar amount that we would like, because not everyone is always able to roll back. To that point, we are aggressively pursuing, Lowndes County, along with the county school system, an additional senior exemption for those 65 and older to again recognize the challenges that an increase in taxes can have. And I just want to clarify one comment that was made yesterday during the public hearing. There is a floss, which is an additional penny that if all local governments in Lowndes County chose to stay inside the limits of House Bill 581, that penny tax could be put before the public for referendum. But I do want to be clear that if that were to be passed, that it is a consumption tax that would be paid by everyone, but it would only benefit those who own property. It would be returned to the property owners in the form of a rollback. So that's not funding that goes into our general fund that can be allocated for services, and it's not differently from SPLOST, something that benefits everyone. It is paid by everyone as a consumption tax, but it only benefits those folks who own properties and are paying those property taxes. So with that, Ms. Black, if you'd like to go through the technical impact that you've prepared.
Thank you. This is just a short presentation that kind of explains House Bill 581 and some of the pros and cons and impacts of it. Again, House Bill 581, the homestead property tax exemption, that limits the annual increase in the taxable value by a rate of inflation that, again, is determined by the State Revenue Commissioner. The initial base year for existing homesteads is your 2024 value. Any future homesteads, new homes that are bought or new applications for homesteads, the base year for those would be the year that they are applied for. The sale of a home resets the base to what the current fair market value is at the time of that sale. The bill provides for an option for local governments and school systems to opt out, but they have to do that by March the 1st of this year. If they do not opt out, they cannot opt out at any time in the future. But if they do opt out now, they can effectively opt back in the future. Consequences of the homestead exemption. There is an inherent gap that will occur between the actual fair market value and the capped value, which will increase over time. That would result in a possible need to increase the millage to make up the difference in the revenue. And as that gap grows, the amount of millage that would have to be raised to generate that tax revenue would grow as well. Now, the homestead property owners would have a stability by knowing how much of an annual increase that they would have in their property values. And that benefit to the homestead property owner would increase over time as long as they own the property. But again, once a sale takes place, that resets the value of that particular property. Because of that gap and because of that increase in millage and that shift, the taxes on other properties such as rentals, businesses, farms, et cetera, would increase to make up a difference for that benefit to the homestead property owners. There would also be inequities created based on long-term ownership versus newer ownership. So someone who has been in a home for 10 years would have a larger advantage than someone who is a new homeowner. Because of that benefit and because that benefit is growing, that may disincentivize the sale of homestead properties, and also because of that shifted tax burden that could affect relocation of businesses to the county. So there's so many parts to millage, it's very hard to project exactly what's going to happen, but this shows you effectively what can happen from this. The first graph there shows the difference between the fair market value, the actual fair market value, and what the capped fair market value would be doing. And you'll see that that gap between the two increases over time. Again, because the amount of revenue that is required to operate the county is the same, you would have to adjust the millage. So you see the gap. If the millage rate were the same over this period of time, the amount that it would have to be raised to make up for that gap between the values is increasing over time as well. On the other side of that, the benefit to the homestead property owner is very small in the beginning, and it grows the longer that they own that property. The reason that this was advertised as the intent to, or the notice to opt out, the intent to opt out, is because of the timeline in the statute. Again, you have to opt out before March 1st. So in January, you voted to post the intent to opt out and to provide the press releases and post the information on the county's website. During the month of February, you are holding at least 3 public hearings in accordance with the requirements for time and advertising. And at your last meeting of this month, you'll have to vote on a resolution on whether or not to opt out, because that has to be filed with the Secretary of State before March 1st. Both local school systems have published their intent to opt out. As Ms. Dukes said earlier, 581 also introduced that floating local option sales tax, which is that additional sales tax of up to 1% to help offset the exemption. But again, it requires all cities and the county to opt in. It would require an agreement between the city of Valdosta and Lowndes County on how to split those revenues. And it would come up on a referendum, which would have to be renewed again in 5 years. Because of the other funding that goes to the authorities and fire services, that would also have, the capped values would also have a negative impact on them financially, as that would reduce the amount of revenue going towards them. This is a recap of the millage history for Lowndes County from 2005 until 2024. The darker red bar is the amount of taxes that comes directly to Lowndes County. You'll see in 2014 and 2016, there was an increase in those 2 years. But every year, other than that, there has been a decrease in the millage for Lowndes County. And it is significantly lower than it was in 2005. The senior citizen exemption, Lowndes County School Board and the Board of Commissioners have discussed this and are working together to look for the best way to help those citizens that are over 65 with their property taxes. The current exemption in Lowndes County is $10,000, and that is more than what is provided for by state statute. To remain consistent, the intent is to present joint legislation to our delegation for an additional exemption that would apply to both the school system and to the county. That new exemption would then have to be approved again on a referendum. While the amount has not yet been determined, we have done a little bit of, informational examples here. A current home at $200,000, the assessed value of that is $80,000. When you take out the current senior exemption, that gives you a net taxable value of $70,000. At the current millage rate of 5.283, that the county portion only is about $370. For every increase of about $10,000 to that exemption, that adds about $50 to that savings. The school board, their millage rate is almost 3 times what the county's is, so it would be about 3 times the savings for that. This is a complicated issue, And again, there are some inherent issues written into the statute, which is why there has been additional legislation to try to address some of those issues. The problem is there is a small window to opt out or you're locked in forever. Opting in will create some inequities that we can't correct because those values would be locked into 2024. But it does provide a benefit to the homestead property owners that becomes more meaningful the longer that they own that property. And then opting out also maintains local control, giving the county and the school systems the ability to make impactful changes.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Black. Ms. Dukes, thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions before we start hearing from citizens?
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to just for clarification, make sure that everyone's aware of that. That senior exemption is something that we're pushing and the school system is pushing. That's not House Bill 581. So just for clarification, that's something that we're looking to do locally while, entertaining the process.
Yes. All right. Let me kind of lay some ground rules to start with. We're not going to comment from the commissioner's standpoint, so if you have a question, then we're not going to get into that. But if you just want to make a comment, make a statement about what your position is about House Bill 581 on the either opt-in or opt-out, that's what we want to hear from you as the citizens. Because we're not going to vote tonight to be opting in or opt-out. This is the second of 3 hearings that we're required to have. We will finish up the 3rd meeting, and then following that meeting at late February, then we'll make that decision on whether to opt in or opt out. And again, I said this yesterday morning, the commission is trying to explore every option that we've got to be able to give you the best and the highest homestead exemption that we can possibly work out. That's the reason why, for the first time since I've been chairman, that we're actually meeting with the school board in order to see if we can collaborate together and combine the two to make it even more impactful for the homeowners. If we go in with the House Bill 581, we're in, all you get is a cap, and then whatever we have to do from our standpoint on millage rate, we'll have to raise the millage rate and do those sort of things to generate the revenue. Again, I said yesterday morning, this commission that you see here before you, as evidence from the millage that you can see that's been rolled back, it is a very, very conservative commission. We run a tight ship. We look to our county manager and all of our staff members to be sure that they're working as efficiently as they possibly can. So the point is, there is no meat on the bone. It's just that tight of a budget that we currently work with. So if we go with 581, as the presentation showed, there's going to be a high probability that in order to maintain the revenue so that we can provide the services for you that you expect us to provide, we're going to have to bump up that millage. So we don't want to do that. What we really want to do, and what I have heard from citizens ever since I've been in this chair, what about us senior citizens that don't have any children in the school system and the taxes we have to pay? This is an opportunity for us to explore all that and see if we can get you a much higher level of tax savings through your homestead exemption. 581 is not going to allow us to do that. So that's why we're going through this process. At the current position, as was stated, we have to make a decision by March 1st. There is some legislation on several factors that's being addressed in the General Assembly as we speak right now. And they're doing that simply because they know that there's problems with House Bill 581. So they're going to address those, and one of those is to extend the opt-in, opt-out until May 1st, which would give us a little bit more time. But right now, we're having to work with the March 1st date because that's what the law currently says. So that's kind of where we're at. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. If there's anyone that would like to come up and make a comment, then you're welcome to do that. Please come up and state your name and address and make your comment.
Good evening. William Spell, 5360 Golf Drive, Lake Park, Georgia. I was up here yesterday morning. You know, my comment yesterday was actually not like the revenue, but more of managing the money and more savings, okay? Our taxes are tremendous, okay? The school board, I mean, they spend like $190 million a year for Lowndes County, okay? And that's just the school board's part. And the county is not quite as high as that. We operate the rest of the county on less than what the school board operates on. But I believe we need to create like a Department of Government Efficiency, basically, for the county and the school board, and kind of get some control over the spending. And a lot of these people that are here, their only savings is their homes. I mean, a lot of people don't have any other savings than their homes. And when we start taxing it and we drive them out of their homes, that's going to create a problem. Because who's going to go back into those homes? We got to leave the taxes, the property taxes, where people can afford to pay them. So, but that's that first comment. And I'd like to not opt out, stay opt in on 581. And I'm afraid that y'all are going toward opt out on 581, but I hope we don't. Okay. And it was stated, and they mentioned it again tonight, about the adding an extra splosh tax, extra 1%, to help the poor people, the people that are, you know, less fortunate. Okay. And but all that's going to do is just give them this money and take that money over here, because they got to go out and spend money and pay the extra 1%. So that's not going to really help. And that's just going to drive up their cost of living. And plus it keeps people from coming in here and buying stuff from us. It hurts businesses. Like I said, I'd like to kind of go back to what I said earlier. Best thing to do is make a way to find more savings in our budget, if at all possible. And maybe look for new sources of revenue. And y'all, one of the things I was thinking about, I mean, we tax everything, all homes, businesses, business property, personal properties, even boats, my camper, I get, you know, all this, we all get taxed on all that. But there's something that doesn't get taxed on, and I've got a small one myself, is personal portfolios. And that's personal property. And I don't know, people with plenty of money and big portfolios can slide off just a sliver to help these people with homes that's their only savings. And I don't mind paying a little bit of a tax on my portfolio so we can have that revenue come in and reduce our homeowners' costs on those personal properties and on these other things. And I think it would really help. And who knows, if we lower, if we can do that and lower the property taxes, we can maybe get more businesses in here and cause maybe increase our portfolio value, because if you invested in the local banks and businesses, your portfolio is going to pick up, so you can afford to pay a little more. You know, we can do infrastructure and you know, improve that, roads and streets and all. Our streets are terrible. I mean, people don't want to come here and open up businesses. And if we can get businesses to come here and open up, we get more stick and mortar buildings. Who knows? Trump may come put a tower in. But I think that would be the best way if we can kind of look at a different source of revenue instead of trying to tax people's houses all the time. And they're very personal properties. I mean, I like my boat, but I'm thinking about selling it because I can't afford to pay the taxes on it to go fishing.
Thank you, Mr. Spelman.
Mr. Chairman, are you allowing comments in between or no?
No, sir. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak on this matter? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Good evening.
Good evening. Got to put on my glasses because I can't read anything without them anymore. My name is Patricia Williams. We're 5367 Gulf Drive, Lake Park. I stand before you today as a concerned taxpayer, parent, and citizen of Lowndes County. I'm also a business owner here. Over the past 6 years, our property taxes have risen by an alarming 41%. According to an article published by WTXL's Malia Thomas on October 23, 2024. Meanwhile, our population has grown significantly, 9.1% from 2010 to 2020, adding around 10,000 new citizens in the past 15 years. In contrast, the U.S. population only grew by 7.7% in the same time frame. These numbers indicate that Lowndes County is growing at a rate faster than the national average, bringing in more tax revenue. Now, we're being asked to pretty much pony up more money, right? This is an additional financial burden on us homeowners, many of whom are already struggling with the rising costs and economic uncertainty. And yet Lowndes County is ranked the 59th wealthiest county out of 159 counties in Georgia. With this level of wealth, why are we still being asked to sacrifice more? Where's our money going? Before stripping us of more of our financial revenue, or of what we have paid in, what we've got in our property, perhaps we should first enforce existing codes on commercial properties. Many businesses neglect maintenance, leaving dilapidated buildings and neglected lots that devalue surrounding neighborhoods. If the county is looking for more revenue, why not start by ensuring commercial properties are held to the same standards as homeowners? And I know for a fact, over the past year, one of my neighbors, they actually received a code violation because they had tires in their yard that they used. So if we hold our business owners to the same standard, maybe we could add some additional revenue there. As a parent of students who have attended Lowndes County schools, one who graduated from Lowndes and another whom we've removed and enrolled in Acellus Academy online, I have firsthand experience with the state of our school system. I've personally witnessed security personnel sleeping on the job, students engaging in inappropriate activities within the school walls, and inconsistent responses to bullying incidents. Both of my children had IEPs, which meant additional engagement with school administration, sometimes positive, sometimes frustratingly ineffective. Despite these challenges, we're being asked to contribute even more to a school system that is failing to meet basic educational standards. Lowndes County schools are ranked 6,529th nationally and 146 out of 150 counties statewide and the College Readiness Index. These numbers do not reflect a system that justifies further financial support from taxpayers without transparency and accountability. In the wake of Hurricanes Helene and Idalia, many of us are still recovering from significant financial setbacks, and we are all navigating an ongoing nationwide recession. Instead of offering relief, our local government is choosing to not only raise property taxes, but strip away more of our homestead exemption, a safeguard that many homeowners rely on to afford their homes. We need to ask some hard questions. What percentage of millage rate is going directly to the Lowndes County schools? Where is this money being allocated, and are they over budget? Why should we contribute more to a system that ranks so poorly in student readiness in the future? What measures are being taken to ensure accountability for the funds that are already being collected? Why are we being asked to pay more in taxes when a $10 million sports complex with 10 tennis courts was completed in March of 2023, and a $59.6 million addition to Lowndes County High School was completed in 2022? I ask you guys, Lowndes County Board of Commissioners, how can you justify this? How can you look your constituents in the eyes and demand more of our money while failing to ensure the responsible use of funds you're already collecting? Why should we trust you when you push through a $10 million sports complex and $59.6 million addition to Lowndes County High School?
Ma'am,
We don't have
ma'am,
anything to do with that.
I'm sorry, but I need to interrupt you just a minute to clarify something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we weren't doing comments.
I know, but I just need to click, because you just keep going on about the
I'm
school board.
almost done.
I understand, but about the school boards, we have, as the Lowndes County Board of Commissioners, have absolutely nothing to do with the Lowndes County School Board.
So the funds from this
That's-
opt-in or opt-out won't go to the Lowndes County School?
They have a choice of themselves, and they've already had their public hearings, so the opportunity for you to say what you wanted to say about the school system is at the school board meetings, not here, because we don't have, we
So
have
these
absolutely.
funds wouldn't go to the Lowndes County School System?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone else? Please come forward. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Pam Hubbard. I live at 2642 Moore Crossing Road. I am a Lowndes County resident. We own a home, so we get homestead exemption. We also have farmland in 3 different parcels. And so, and we raise cows, and we have pine trees that, we used to have more pine trees, but anyway, we have pine trees. I am in favor of Lowndes County opting out. I think that the discussion that is going on with the citizens of Lowndes County and the citizens of Valdosta is important. I think that taxpayers are getting a chance to express some of their frustrations. However, it's my understanding that if you opt in, that the decision-making leaves the county and it goes to the state. I personally like to be able to look at the county commissioners, to speak to them and to have the opportunity to speak, rather than being a number maybe that would not be able to get through to an unelected official in the state. I think this person who would do this is a Department of Revenue person. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I encourage you to opt out. The county, the schools, they can make their decisions, they can meet, they can examine alternatives, and you can opt back in later if you feel like, and then you can present to us why you think that you're going to go that route. At the present, I think that opting out is the reasonable thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment? Anyone else would like to make a comment? All right, hearing none, then we'll close the public hearing on House Bill 581. And Commissioners, can I get a motion then to reconvene our regular meeting? Okay, we have a motion to reconvene. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? We'll give everybody a few minutes if you want to leave.
I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving.
It's amazing how people are mad at the schools, but they don't go to the school meetings. I'm bringing my tax bill next time, because 60% of it is the school tax. And you hate to throw the schools under the bus, but I mean, I agree with a lot. I agree with what they're saying. Yeah.
It come in the envelope.
She took the words out of my mouth, man. I had written down that, we're not doing away with homesteads. How did all
Like I say,
y'all feel
talk about it. We have to buy it. Look, the press
commissioner's office in Atlanta at some point?
Well, there's a balance, but like the people mad about the school, I mean, the 60%, I think, opting out and doing nothing is political suicide. But if we really come up with a good plan, then I'm for local decisions. But,
That woman embarrassed herself, though.
yeah, about the school.
Okay, we're back in session with our regular meeting, and our next agenda item is Agenda Item 5D. This is REZ 2025-04. This is River Run Farm, 6490 River Run. This involves 27 acres. It is currently CC. The request is for R21, and it will have county water and septic. Mr. Dillon.
Again, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. You note here on the historic zoning map the outlines of the R15 neighborhood commercial and flood hazard from the mid-'80s when this neighborhood was first conceived. As you stated, it is currently R21 predominantly, which you'll see on the next slide, but the request here is for approximately 15.3 acres of these commercial zoning to be changed to the R21. Again, this is a Lake Lcboc plantation, which you do note is predominantly R21. There is some RA portion lots in the very southern tip. Again, the future land use depicts this as a suburban area, which does recommend R21 as appropriate, and being within the urban service area, it also finds it appropriate. You can see the wetland map here provided. You note the portion of the floodplains and wetlands on the northeastern portion there. And again, we had some comments that came in regarding some of the utilities and septic systems, so I'd like to take a moment to just address that if you don't mind. Again, staff and engineers, along with the EPD, have evaluated an additional well site off to the west of this property to potentially eliminate the groundwater infiltration that currently occurs with the existing groundwater system there. The EPD does require quarterly testing, and that letters be sent if any of the findings are beyond their parameters. It has been advertised for this project, and on March 27th, a bid opening will occur with a May-June notice to proceed window, and then a 180-day contract, which will also include a new 20,000-gallon tank to double the storage capacity for water out at Lake Lcboc. Any additional infrastructure associated with development, if approved, will be at the cost of the developer, as stated earlier. As far as county fire, again, the current system that is placed cannot sustain the flow rates. However, the recent purchase of turbo drafts and the tanker apparatus response with the water shuttle process should improve. There's also a fully manned station 11 road miles away, which is at Station 10, and the policies and processes are in place to address response. Regarding the drainage, the county and the power company are in the survey and design phase to address the relocation of the power lines that are buried 3 feet below the surface in the center of the ditch along Lake Lcboc Boulevard. The utility relocation and drainage improvements may be complete within 12 months depending on the power company's schedule, and Lowndes County's portion of the project will be shovel-ready prior to that. Based on the applicant's statements, any new development, stormwater drainage will be directed away from Lake Lcboc Boulevard. With that being said, you can note the aerial of the property here and the proposed change, more or less following the southern and eastern portion of the lake from CC to R21. The applicant currently possesses about 23 acres of R21 zoning, and if approved tonight, would increase total available R21 conditions to 35 acres. So again, the Planning Commission heard this request. After the TRC analyzed and recommended for its approval, the Planning Commission did have opposition from the neighbors, speaking about the water concerns, the stormwater, the fire, and the EPD reports that have been emailed out. The Planning Commission then motioned to approve the request for R21 with the condition that no more than 9 lots be developed. That motion carried 6-3.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Dillard?
Just to clarify, the drainage issues that we're talking about are ditches that have been compromised or that are no longer flowing properly. And in those ditches are power lines that are that's where he was saying on the slide, 3 feet deep. So that's the reason that we haven't been able to excavate those ditches and clean them up until the power company gets there to.
Yes.
Correct.
Working with the utility company, they're gonna have to relocate those lines so that we can do the work that we need to do on the ditch.
And there is some piping that will be needed there, so that's what we're currently going through the engineering and design process for, so that we won't be holding up the project. And the power company has been, has been aggressively working with us over the last few months. This is an issue that's gone on for more than a year. Certainly the hurricane slowed down their workload some, but we will be shovel-ready when they're ready to get those lines where they need to be relocated to. That will be at the cost of the county, but they've got to be moved for us to be able to move, to take care of this drainage.
But we don't know what that timeline looks like.
Not exactly, no. I wouldn't.
But they are working with us and responding,
Correct.
and they understand the issue.
Correct.
So, I mean, you're saying to dig out the ditches deeper?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but just deeper ditches is not gonna take care of all of the issue. There's gonna be some piping and some other civil engineering work that will need to be done as a part of that. So we're currently in the design phase of that.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request?
Bless you.
Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Amy Watts. I have a home at 5915 Nature's Way in Naylor. I'm here today not to say that Mr. Sanders shouldn't be able to build homes, right? This is, progress is progress. But the concern that we have as a neighborhood is the quality of our water. As you indicated earlier, the EPD is notified quarterly in regards to the contaminants in our water. Our water system has been in violation started in 2010. We are in violation of the TTHM, the total trihalomethanes, and the haloacetic acids. And that trend has continued to go upward. The only year that was tested in which we were not in violation was 2017. Since 2020, we have been in violation every single quarter, exceeding the EPA recommended standards of 80 parts per billion for the TTHM and for the HAA5, 60 parts per billion. So our concern is we're going to build more houses in a system that can't support it. Now, I know a lot of this is geological. We've got an aquifer issue going, the river comes in, creates kind of this organic decaying matter that we have to remedy. And that's what causes these numbers. So I don't really see that going away anytime soon unless we get another well, which you guys kind of discussed. So when is that going to happen? So we talked about we're getting a new system, but I did an open records request, and there's no specified time for that to happen. And we also have a 20,000 gallon tank, which isn't really enough to support what we have now, with an estimated 392 residents at about 100 gallons per day. That exceeds the amount that our existing tank can hold. What I would like to see is for us to hold off building more homes until we can get the new system implemented and get it tested. The other issue is, once we get this system implemented, where we have the same problem, we have the same contaminants, they're not going anywhere because they're created by the aquifer and the Lcboc River that are coming into our system. I want to address kind of the fire alarm system as well. I understand that there are low tank alerts that go off in our neighborhood. So the county is notified when our tank gets below certain levels. Now, what level that is, I don't know. I asked for a records request in regards to when the alerts are seen, how often they're seen, and I was told that that isn't recorded. That's a concern. So if we have to be concerned about fire, then we have to be concerned about how low our tank is. If we're going to add more people to that, then we contribute more to the problem. My biggest issue is going to be the contaminants and the amount of water that we have. If we allow people to build more homes, are we going to notify these people moving in that there's contaminants? No one told me. I might not have bought my home in Lake Lcboc had I known that. These things can cause cancer and other medical problems if sustained and consumed for a long time. You don't even have to drink it. You can bathe in it, and it can be inhaled, and it can be absorbed through the skin. High probability, probably not. But if you want me to bring you a gallon of our water to drink every day, maybe you wouldn't want somebody else to build houses here. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Pete Sturgill. I live at 5905 Live Oak Drive, Lake Lcboc, Naylor, Georgia. We bought the house in 2017, and since the day we bought our house, where you're wanting to build all these houses or where they've already built 4 of them, the water sits up there. And about 3 years ago, we came in here as a group. We talked to the county manager, and we were assured that the water system wouldn't smell anymore, or we were told it wouldn't, and that they were going to do some study like they did out at the air base and fix the system. Well, we still have low pressure. I don't drink the water, and we still have a buildup of water on the road. You only can use one lane most of the time. Now, the thing I have is This has been going on for 7 years and nothing's been done, nothing viable, yet you want to put more, I don't care if you put more houses there. But are you gonna build a bridge so we can get over the water in that bend area? I mean, nothing gets done. And as somebody says, we could have 400 houses out there. And the only thing I can say is we gotta hold you accountable. You know, it was made comments that that water system that we have, the county took over and is the most expensive one they have. Well, they've done nothing to improve it. I mean, all this talk about, yeah, it's coming, it's coming. Where is it? At least show a truck up out there. And those are all wooden homes. Made out of what? Pine. And that burns like that. So, that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. We have about 2.5 minutes.
My name's Joshua Luke. I live at 5801 Live Oak Drive, right next to Mr. Storgill. I don't think, my main concern isn't quality of the water. You can put a fire out with dirty water. Y'all are self-admitted that the system is insufficient for flow rates. There's not enough water, and we can't put fires out with should. They said these turbo things should do this. We're going to get that. I mean, this is, welcome to America, we live here. Mr. Sanders, that's his land. As far as I'm concerned, he can build what he wants on it. But there's been some questions, you know, in my conversations with folks as if there was going to or not going to be enough water, and seeing that on there is a concern for me, and I think the primary concern of most of the residents out there. They don't have a problem with new residents. I mean, that's just progress, and it could be really good for us, but I have a hard time adding stuff that we can't support, that we don't have the infrastructure for. And we've been promised the water thing for years and years and years. We're gonna fix it, gonna fix it. Those are our biggest investments of most of our lives. We're very middle-class people, and we can't put fires out. We should. Can't do it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we got a minute and a half. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? All right, hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name's Larry Sanders. I'm the property owner, and I live at 6490 River Run, Naylor, Georgia. Just wanted to kind of present what I'm looking to do and give you guys to ask me any questions that that you might want to ask. The one thing that I would like to mention first is the stipulation that I can only build 9 lots from the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I have no interest in that whatsoever. If that's if that's what you guys come away with, then I'm going to drop my request to rezone and keep my Crossroads commercial zoning, which gives me tons of opportunity for different types of development as it currently sits. But I want to build at the moment 9 more houses on Lcboc Boulevard. There's already water there. The county just resurfaced the road a couple years ago. The road at that location is in good shape. Several neighbors have brought up the flooding issue. I've been there 9 years. I can tell you that it's been there for 9 years since I've been there. And being a civil engineer, which I am, I can explain why. When that ditch was graded in that particular section, just wasn't fall put on it. I can show you guys contours that show one contour running down the ditch from one end to the other. So it's an easily fixed a problem that's easy to fix, and the county is already working on that. And I have been coordinating with the county, giving any help I can, and also saying any water that needs to come to my pond. The county's already got an easement to my pond. That any water that needs to come to my pond to help help the county, help the neighborhood, then I'll do whatever is needed for me to make that happen. There's not which, you know, bear with me for a second, because a lot of people, you know, they'll have a knee-jerk reaction and say that what I'm saying is not, there's not that much water that comes there from an engineering perspective. The problem is the water doesn't get out. And I'll be glad to, if any of you guys want to see that, show that. But I'm working with the county, and the county is aggressively working to solve the problem, and I have no doubt it will solve the problem. The other thing that keeps being brought up is that the quality of the water. Well, a few more houses does not impact the quality of the water one way or the other. Doesn't make it better, doesn't make it worse. So that's really an issue that I think you guys have a good plan to resolve with the two 6-inch deep wells and the nanofiltration system. That's, you know, that's more of a Steve Stalvey and Chad type deal, but I think you guys have a good plan in place. So that sounds like it's being like it's being rectified. The same thing with the flow and the pressure out there. It's unfortunate, but I design all over the county and all over several counties, and it's unfortunate when flow and pressure conditions are not perfect, but they often are not perfect. And you know, you guys, us as engineers, and you guys, you know, as commissioners and engineering staff, you know, work aggressively to try to solve those problems. But there's always a problem to solve. So it sounds to me like there's a good plan in place, and with respect to, you know, what I'm wanting to do impacting that, I'm gonna build these homes myself, and I'm not in a hurry to do so. I'm not gonna get out over my skis. I'm not a rich man. I'm not gonna get out over my skis and see how many homes I can build and go in debt, you know, trying to build homes. My current plan is to build 1 to 2 homes a year, depending on how well they move. At that, you know, after those 9 lots that would front Lcboc, depending on how that's done, at that point I'll decide if I have the intention, you know, to do anything else. But I in no way want to be limited to what I can do with the rest of my property, you know, to the extent that all of the property zoned R21 in that area is not being limited in the same way. I don't want to build 9 homes and then stay there 20 years from now and, you know, want to build my son a house somewhere, and the county tell me, no, you can't do it because we voted back in 2025 that you could only put 9 lots on this property. I've tried to meet with my neighbors, and I have no ill will or hard feelings towards my neighbors whatsoever. I've extended my phone number and my willingness to talk to everybody and explain what I'm wanting to do. The homes that I'm wanting to build would exceed the Lcboc standards as far as what's required. I want to do more brick and stone on the front of the homes. I want to build a little larger home. I want to build 20-foot wide lots. And I want to, you know, I live there. I'm not interested in doing anything that's unattractive or detrimental to the neighborhood. I guess that's my little 2 cents right now, so I'll be glad to take any questions you guys have got.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Sanders? You have questions for Mr. Sanders or just comments you want to make?
No, I have questions for Mr. Sanders.
Okay.
I just want to clarify, so your intentions are, though, I mean, your request is R21 for the entire 15
Yes, sir.
lots?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, but you want to do, you're saying you're going to only do 9 to begin with, and that's going to be like, just call that your phase 1?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of timeline are you looking at on that?
I'm expecting 3 years plus or minus, at least. I mean, I don't know. I've helped other people develop and build stuff my whole life, but I don't have any idea of what the market. But I'm building them myself. I'm not turning this over to somebody else. So I'm gonna build. You know, whatever gets built out there will be, you know, through my own efforts. So
Well, and you kind of already addressed it, but I mean, I guess where I'm coming from is I want to make sure that, I mean, we've got the fire chief here with us, who I have the utmost confidence, better than any chief in Georgia, that's going to take care of our fire control issues there. If we even have any issues, I question whether or not we actually do. But we're talking about, we've got resolutions for all these water quality issues. I just didn't want you to jump out there and build however many houses you can build on the 15 acres until, you know, if we could pace this, I think it makes a little more sense.
Well, I don't want to speak for Mr. Stalvey, Steve Stalvey, but I call Mr. Stalvey on a regular basis when I've got a question about water, and I can assure all you guys, I don't want to build a house that they're not going to be able to serve. So before I build anything, I'm going to go sit down with all the utilities and the engineering department staff and get y'all's direction. And if y'all tell me, you know, the water, we hadn't got the tank installed yet or whatever else, I'm not looking to get out there and get over my skis. So I'll stand down and wait till those type issues are resolved.
Okay. Any other questions I have one for Steve, though. for Steve? Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
Thank y'all.
Steve, what's the protocol / requirement for notifying residents of when there's contaminants such as those have been described out at Lcboc?
So we take those tests quarterly, and when those results come back in, those letters are mailed out quarterly. Additionally, we have our consumer confidence report that goes out every 1st of July.
Okay. And so whenever it takes place for one of those, you send them out to the whole?
It goes to the whole neighborhood.
Whole neighborhood. Okay. And I guess the other question I had was pertaining to before properties are sold out in the area, are they required to tell new residents that, hey, this area has had bad water?
I don't think there's no requirement. I mean, if you're getting served, there's a requirement, but for speculation, I don't think there's any requirement. Now, if I might, I would like for Ms. Dukes or Mr. Stalvey or Chad, whichever one, Mr. McLeod, because I've heard several times about the timeline on the wells and those upgrades to the water system. What are we looking at as far as that goes right now? Where are we at?
JD, can you go back to the slide that I had there? I don't think I have the copies. All right, so, Mr. Chairman, they're here before you. So we are slated for a March 27th bid opening, and then a May to June notice to proceed, and that's a 180-day contract. Part of what took a little time is to procure the land. We did have to work with a private landowner and to make sure that we were within a reasonable distance, but also as far as we could possibly get from the river to try to cut down on that infiltration.
Yep. So my point is that this is not something that we're just talking about. This is actual process
Correct.
that we're moving forward to right now, is to get new wells put in and get an additional capacity in a tank to be able to better serve that area.
That is correct. The bid for this work is already in the market,
Gotcha.
being priced.
Okay. All right. I do have one other thing. I just need to kind of back up just a minute. If there's no one else that would like to speak in favor of this request, okay, in favor? All right. Mr. Wiles, come ahead. Name and address, please.
Chip Wiles, 2806 Pebblewood Drive, Valdosta, Georgia. Mr. Chairman and commissioners and staff, we appreciate what you do. I am in favor of Larry doing what he wants to do with his property. My property, if you could show the map, JD, of his property, anyway, I don't know if anybody noticed, but on the Lcboc River, there was a thing that looked like the profile of a nose right behind Larry's property. That's my property. It's almost 70 acres. And I bought it in 2021. And I bought it when I found out about it because it's on the river, and it was a beautiful property, had a beautiful duck pond, it's got wildlife and everything. So I do have some concerns. I support him 100%. It's his property. He should do what he wants to. But we talked about notification. Well, I bought that property to hunt on it. I've met Larry and his family when I first moved out. They were great people, very welcoming. And I've let them use my property to hunt on it and told them, use it like it's yours, you know, when I'm not here, because I'm rarely out there. So anyway, I just wonder when people go out and they buy these homes and they're right up next to a conservation area, which my property is going to stay conservation, I hope, for generations to come. We're going to hunt there. I don't want some housewife on some early morning at sunlight, hear a high-powered rifle crack and be calling 911 hysterical, thinking somebody's shooting in her backyard. But that's one of the things that I'm concerned about. The other thing, is when people come out there, we already have trespassers that come out there and ride four-wheelers and fish and leave trash and stuff like that. I guess, any of you guys that own property in the woods, you just can't avoid some of that kind of stuff. But that's a concern, just safety and people out there disturbing the wildlife. That's the reason I bought it, and we had this, I had a great situation with Larry buffering me, but I'm buffered on the north with the railroad track and Highway 84, on the east with the Lcboc River, and then Larry's property is R21. That green property there, 23 acres, that's my property, R21 behind it. I actually have the higher property on my 70 acres is R21. So I can't argue with the R21 and anything, and here again, I support somebody's right to do what they want to with their property. But these things that I just mentioned are concerns, because when we get 40 houses out there, 50 houses, whatever that's gonna hold, it's gonna change the whole reason I purchased my property. So anyway, that's a concern, and I just wonder here, again, do homeowners, when they buy property next to conservation and wooded areas where people are hunting with high-powered rifles and shotguns, I'm sure somebody's gonna be in there and they're gonna not have any idea that this is what my plan is for my property. And it's gonna create maybe some problems with law enforcement calls and whatever it is, but I just wanted to kind of raise that as an issue, as a concern, actually.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiles. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Commissioners, I sold to Mr. Sanders. He didn't know I was going to come talk about this, but if he hadn't bought it, I would already had the houses out there, because it was zoned back in 1987 by the commission. They worked very diligently with us as we developed that property and built that lake. The only reason it is commercial is that we had aspirations to put some stores there for the residents of Lake Lcboc. As you know, we had a lot of problems with the Corps and EPA over the construction of that lake, and so that never happened. It's been 40 years now. It would have been zoned R21 just like the balance of that property was, had we not decided to try to put some commercial property on there around that lake. And I don't see any reason why the whole property couldn't be zoned R21 for Mr. Sanders' benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dinkins. All right, I'll give, if there's nobody else who would like to speak in favor, then we will give an opportunity for rebuttal, if there's anyone that would like to rebut anything that's been said here tonight. Come forward. Again, your name and address for the record, please.
Sir, time for the rebuttal.
Amy Watts, 5915.
3 minutes.
Nature's Way, Naylor. Sorry, hi again. Okay, I just want to kind of address the issue with what Mr. Sanders said in regards to, well, the water quality is bad, it's not always going to be bad, so, what the hey. But these are people we're talking about. We kind of have a moral obligation to people coming in the neighborhoods, kind of knowing what they're getting into. To give you an idea, since I didn't give you figures earlier, I did tell you, I'm just going to go over the trihalomethanes. 80 parts per billion is the maximum. Otherwise, everybody gets really upset, okay? So in 2017, we're at 45. All right, that's good. 2018, that's when I moved into the neighborhood. 85, okay, higher. 2019, 109. 2020, 180. 2021, 181. 2022, 215. 2023, 262. And 2024, 266. Now, I wasn't able to get the number of houses that were being built in that time frame because I found out City of Valdosta did permits for most of that. So I can't really, equate the number of houses with the increase in the contaminants. I also want to address, I don't remember getting a quarterly statement. I know they violated since 2020, every quarter. I would imagine I'll remember if I got a notice every single quarter warning me of cancer problems. And I also want to address that, if you remember the Flint, Michigan situation with the water there, they actually have lower rates than we do of these contaminants. I just feel like we have a moral obligation. If you want to build the houses, if you want to vote for it, fine. But I think we have to tell the people moving in there that their water quality is substandard and has the potential to harm them in the wrong one. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? We got about a minute. Is there anyone else that would like to rebuttal? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, given we don't really have moratoriums that we said, or we can put a timeline for constructions, I just make the motion to deny the request at this time.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Do I have a second? Okay, motion fails for lack of second. I'll consider another motion.
My motion is that we approve the request as R21 without any conditions, following staff recommendation, and that we get busy fixing these issues with the water. This is a zoning case, it's a land use case. All this other stuff is great information, but it's not pertinent to what we're trying to decide here. Shooting, hunting, all that stuff is irrelevant. This is land use, so my motion is we approve R21 for the entire 15 whatever acres.
Okay, we have a motion then to approve R21. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Evans. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote by show of hands. Please raise your hand if you're in favor of the motion. All right, those that are in opposition, please raise your hand. All right, that leaves it to the chairman, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Well, I will support the motion and vote affirmative for the motion to approve the request for R21. All right, we'll move on now to items of consideration, and that would be Agenda Item 6A, and this is the resolution authorizing the Lowndes County Tax Commissioner to receive checks and money orders and payment of taxes and licenses. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. January 1 brought to Lowndes County a new tax commissioner. Every time this position, and we have a new tax commissioner come in, there are certain resolutions that the commission must approve. And the first one on the agenda tonight is for the ability for the Lowndes County Tax Commissioner to receive checks and money orders in payment of taxes and licenses.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dukes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let the record show that Mr. Smith had stepped out of the room, and so the vote was 3-0. All right, we'll go now to Agenda Item 6B, and this is a resolution electing not to require mobile home decals. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The tax commissioner was here at the work session yesterday and explained that this request is in response to the cost of preparing the decals and moving through that process every year. The law changed in 2021, and those decals are no longer required to be displayed on the exterior of a mobile home. My conversation earlier today with the tax commissioner is that just in the decal printing alone, that this action would save that office $4,000 in taxpayer dollars.
All right, any questions from Ms. Dukes? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6C is a beer and wine license for the Patel's 2025 LLC, doing business as Busy Food Mart, located at 6901 Belleville Road in Lake Park. Ms. Black.
Yes, sir, thank you. Again, this is for Mr. Patel for the Busy Food Mart on Belleville Road. This is for the sale of beer and wine for consumption off-premise and is due to a change of ownership.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Black? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6D is the new endpoint detection and response EDR software. Mr. Costi.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman and Commission. As discussed yesterday, this is a new EDR software and services request, and we were requesting to go with vendor A.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Costi? All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Vendor A.
Of A.
Okay, we have a motion to approve vendor A. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6E is the Whitewater Road Lift Station Pump. Mr. Stalvin.
Yes, sir. The Whitewater Road lift station is a triplex station on the trunk line leading down to the LAS. We have one of our older pumps there out of service. The pump was sent to Xylem. The cost for repairs is over 75% of a new pump. The new pump is also comes with the N impeller, which helps significantly with clogging. The price of that repair was $39,981. Staff recommends purchasing the new pump for $46,446.52.
Any questions for Mr. Stalvin?
Just one, Steve. When is the anticipated installation date?
It's typically, for this type pump, I believe we would get it within 1 to 2 months.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions?
You said earlier it has a 1-year warranty?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion passes. Agenda item 6F is the acceptance of the hazard mitigation grant for generators. Mr. Ty.
Yes, sir. As we discussed yesterday morning, Lowndes County was recently notified that we were awarded grant funding we applied for in 2019. This funding will be for a mitigation grant that will provide emergency backup generators for each of the 5 Pruitt Health facilities in Lowndes County. Because the price is going to be significantly different than they were in 2019. We also have a letter from the chairman and CEO of Pruitt Health confirming that they will be responsible for any cost over and above what GEMA and FEMA provides. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Ty?
No,
Good. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a comment. Thank you for your hard work on this, seriously, because that's a big deal. And I know that they probably couldn't have done it without you, and everything you've done is just excellent, and it's going to save us a lot of time and aggravation and energy, and hopefully, anyway, thank you.
Same here. Thanks for it. I was just inquiring on the type of, I know you say they're going to put on the connections points or disconnects or what have you prior to the storm season, what have you. Is it based on any particular size?
Yeah, so this transfer switch is based off of the size generator, and each one of those facilities, they've looked at them, and so each one of them actually has kind of a different size generator based on the size and all that. And the transfer switch is matched to that size generator. But what I was saying yesterday is if the transfer switch gets installed before the generator and they had a loss of power, we can get a portable generator brought in that matches that, so we could at least be able to plug in, and it makes it a lot easier to hook up to a generator with a transfer switch already there.
But for clarification, this includes transfer switches,
This is
generators.
this is everything.
Okay, all right.
This is
Appreciate it.
everything.
Ms. Dukes, Mr. Ty always fixes our problems, and it typically never costs us anything. I'd just like to point that out. All the problems he fixes, and it doesn't cost us much.
Noted. And I would just add to that with regards to bringing in a generator for that transfer switch. That is if there are generators available. You all remember during Hurricane Helene, there was a big fight for generators. We had, folks that were bringing them from many states away. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that we can get the transfer switches in, but until the specific generators are delivered, then we would have to make a resource request if we were in an emergency situation to try to get the proper generator here.
Which
So
could
there's
be
no
very
guarantee.
difficult.
That's right.
Which
There's
could
no
be very
guarantee.
difficult.
Correct.
But the fix is not until we get transfer switches and generators on
That's
site.
right.
and
When the
hooked up.
project is done, they will have a generator sitting there on site that's theirs, dedicated to that facility. And when the power goes out, generator comes on, just like it does this building and the EOC and those, and they'll be back up and going.
Are they all diesel ran? Is that the plan?
Yes, so that's what we will specify. That's what the quotes were and what Pruitt has indicated they'd like.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Todd. Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve the request. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second by Ms. Evans. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6G is identifying the Crescent as a place of historic interest, which would include tax exemption. Ms. Dukes.
Yes, sir. Thank you. As reported yesterday morning, there were some questions this past appeal season, if you will, regarding the eligibility of exemption for the Crescent through the property owned by the Garden Center. After some significant research that I have to give Ms. Lisa Bryant with our assessor's office a lot of credit for, because she actually did the legwork to find the old records that qualified the Crescent. She worked with the county attorney's office, and if you all choose to approve this resolution, then it will permanently exempt the Garden Center and the Crescent facility.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dukes. Any questions for Ms. Dukes?
Just one, Mr. Chairman. So basically, in the past, they've been paying, having to pay?
No. There was a cleanup this year whenever we went through the digest process, and there was some pushback from the Department of Revenue on some properties that we already had exempt that they felt like might not qualify for an exemption. And it really, not to get too much into it, but it really drills down into the organization's bylaws and some other qualifications and how those things are written. So we started trying to help the Crescent through that process, which we weren't exactly getting where we needed to be. And so Ms. Bryant just kept digging and found that the commission had approved many years ago. There was a maybe constitutional amendment's not the right word, but there was some local legislation that was put in place here when you could still do that type of local legislation that permanently exempted that facility.
All right, thanks.
So to clarify, the Crescent main structure was exempt, but the garden home area wasn't?
No, it's all been exempt for many years. When the assessor staff started cleaning up that list at the request of the Department of Revenue, the parcel as a whole was decided to not be exempt. And so we had to go back through the process. Again, Ms. Lisa Bryant found the documentation.
This will make the whole property and parcels and all buildings that
Correct.
rely on the Crescent exempt?
Yes.
That's right. It cleans it all up and gets it resolved.
Permanently.
Basically, it already had been done. You're just reaffirming that process.
I'd be honored to make the motion to approve that.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, we'll move on now to agenda item 6H, and this is rules and regulations for claims for refunds of taxes. Ms. Dukes?
Yes, sir. Again, this is an update of a resolution that has previously been in place due to the new tax commissioner, Commissioner Guest taking office January 1.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Dukes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let the record show that Mr. Ornstein has stepped out of the room, and the vote was unanimous, 3-0. All right, County Manager Report, Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I am a little disappointed that Commissioner Ornstein is not here because, once again, Mr. Ty has brought an idea to the table that's not going to cost the county any money, but it's going to cost Mr. Stalvey quite a bit of time. But it's definitely worth it. So I do want to make you all aware that through our research and our conversations about the private water systems that were not generator powered during Hurricane Helene, that Ashley has worked hard to clarify with FEMA that the same mitigation process that you all just approved for the nursing homes can be made available to the owners of private water systems. So Mr. Stalvey and his staff have gone through and reconciled the list of private water systems that we have. There are around 18 owners of the 69 systems. So if you all don't have any objection, what we plan to do is move forward with Mr. Stalvey's staff contacting them, having a meeting, bringing them in to find out if they're interested in making the same application for generators for those private water systems that the nursing homes took advantage of for their facilities. So again, this could be, depending on, FEMA's timeline, something that is a few years in the making, but at least we're moving in the right direction. FEMA will pay 75% of the generator cost, and then there's a question of how the 25% would be split between possibly GEMA and the owner of the water system. So this is not something that the county would have any money out of pocket over other than our staff's time. But we believe very strongly that with the charge you all have given us to try to figure this out, that this is the most efficient and cost-effective way to move forward. So if you all don't have any objection to that, then we will move in that direction.
Well, I absolutely support it. One of the big issues, as y'all know, during the hurricanes that we had, was these private well systems had no electricity, no power, like everybody else. It's one thing to have no electricity, but it's something else to have no water. And so it was.
As someone who was without both, I can tell you no water is much worse than no power.
Right. Me too. Right. This will hopefully go a long way to resolving that issue if we can get the cooperation from these system owners, which they would be kind of foolish not to if we can get this taken care of.
This be in one group application?
Sir?
It would be an individual application for each.
Every unit would have.
Correct, and we'll be here to help walk everyone through the system. Now, some system owners own 8 to 10 or more water systems, so it could be that they're able to group those applications as far as their ownership goes. We would have to flesh that out with FEMA related to their regulatory, but that's okay. We will help as many of these people through the process as they are willing to engage, and we have an April 1 deadline. So that's why we want to talk to you all tonight. Mr. Stalvey's got his staff on hold, ready to move forward with this process if you all have no objection.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really all we're asking. We're not asking for a vote or anything. We just, if no one has any objection to it, then staff is going to go ahead and continue to pursue this opportunity. We're all good with that.
Yeah, I've asked GFA to check into maybe helping offset that additional 25%, and so those conversations have started too, which could sweeten the deal for these guys.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that Steve's going to also have some conversation with the Georgia Rural Water Association to see if there's anything available there as well.
All right, anything else, Ms. Dukes?
Yes, sir, just a couple of things. On Friday, from 8.
Either that or hurry up and buy supper.
I know, I'm hurrying. On Friday, we will be hosting Leadership Moody, which is Moody Air Force's base, their equivalent of Leadership Lounge. We will have them at Public Works from 8:30 to 10:30 on Friday morning. If any of you would like to join us, you're welcome to come. I was not able to attend this event last year. Ms. Cumbus handled it all so well that whenever they called and wanted to come again this year, I said, where do you want to go? And they begged, can we please go back to Public Works? So Robin, they're coming Friday, and we will be there. Also, February the 16th kicks off National Engineering Week. So, Mr. McLeod, thank you for everything that you and your staff do, and we're very grateful for the part that you all play in providing services and moving the county forward. Also, on February the 21st, some of you may remember Captain Sam Temples, who worked for many years for the sheriff's office. The sheriff has put in a request to rename a facility on his campus after Captain Temples. That has been scheduled for February the 21st. We don't have a time yet, but as soon as we do, we will get that. Also, February the 21st is Government Communicators Day. And I'm sorry Ms. Barwick could not be here tonight, but I think that we are all better for all things because of her efforts. So we will be celebrating her on February the 21st. And the last thing that I have is to remind you all that Friday is Valentine's Day. So if you have not taken care of your Valentine, you got 3 days to get there, gentlemen. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, any commissioners, any questions or comments?
If we had a comment, you wouldn't allow it.
I wouldn't. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.